Let's listen to Bill O'Reilly give the rainbows and puppies view of U.S. foreign policy on his show last night.
The al-Qaeda militants who have seized the northern part of Iraq are part of a worldwide terror movement. Al-Qaeda struck Kenya, Africa over the weekend. These people are hell-bent on imposing a fanatical strain of Islam on the entire world. Yes, Iraq has been poorly managed since President Obama pulled out all U.S. troops. There's no question about that. But our initial sacrifice was not in vain. In fact, it was noble. So I am addressing the following comments directly to the brave men and women who served in Afghanistan, Vietnam, Korea, and Iraq. You guys defeated a killer, Saddam Hussein, a man who oppressed millions of people and was the embodiment of evil. We are doing the same thing now in Afghanistan, trying to give the Afghan people a chance to throw off the brutal oppression of the Taliban. Likewise, in Vietnam, armed forces fought against communist totalitarians who, once we left Southeast Asia, murdered millions of people, millions. The truth is that modern America has always fought on the side of freedom, giving people the chance to decide what their country should be. The South Vietnamese did not fight hard enough for their freedom, so they lost it. The Iraqis are apparently not interested in freedom. They want to settle scores, Shia versus Sunni, that kind of thing. All you guys can do in the military is give people a chance. And you have done that at great sacrifice, time after time after time. You saved the South Koreans. Can you imagine those people living today under the tyranny of the North Korean tyrant? So let's all stop the theoretical nonsense. The USA protects the human rights of people all over the world, period. The anti-American cabal can point to Abu Ghraib and other embarrassments, but that's a very small part of the big picture.
I have so much to say about that. So, first of all, there was a brilliant move that he did there, which is an attempt to put himself above criticism. It really is a brilliant move because so many people are going to buy into that garbage where he says, I am addressing the military and the troops specifically here. All right, guys, are you listening? Oh, you're the best ever, and because of you, there's freedom around the world, and it's so great, and everybody owes you everything ever. So he's trying to put himself above criticism by invoking the troops and saying, no, this is a bond that me and them have. I'm on their side, so let me go ahead and explain to them why they're right about everything and why, they're such heroes. Now, look, the reality is, of course, nobody blames the troops. The troops are just doing their job. But the question is the policy that's put in place by the politicians. Okay? Are the leaders making the right calls? And the answer to that is absolutely not. So it's both a brilliant move on O'Reilly's part and a cheap move because he knows he's trying to put himself above criticism. Well, guess what, buddy? I'm still going to criticize you. And then when he goes, well, look, you're trying to give people freedom, and it's noble. It was a noble goal. Well, look, that's not the reality because if you go back and look at how these wars were sold to us, it had nothing to do with, well, we're going to go in there and liberate the people. No, the original reason was 9/11. Hey, we need to get back against al-Qaeda for 9/11, so we invaded Afghanistan. And people said, okay, good, we want to get back for 9/11. Then they said, well, now there's a connection between Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden, and Saddam Hussein was responsible for 9/11, so we need to go into Iraq. And people bought it, and they said, okay, we'll go into Iraq. We would have never approved that war if you said we just want to liberate the Iraqi people. Americans would have went, what? It's none of our fucking business. What does that have to do with us? It's got nothing to do with us. So they moved the goalposts. Again, they go from Saddam Hussein was responsible for 9/11. That was bullshit. Oh, he has weapons of mass destruction. Well, that was bullshit. And also, the implication was he's going to use them ASAP. And that wasn't true, even if he did have weapons of mass destruction, which he didn't. And then they moved the goalposts again, and they said, oh, he's just a bad guy. And so it was like the third or fourth argument became, oh, we're doing it for the freedom of the Iraqi people. But that wasn't the original reason. You changed it like 3 or 4 times because we caught you in your bullshit every time. So it's just a silly point of view. And now, look, here's the main point, man. Again, nobody blames the military or the troops for doing their job. They're doing their job. We blame the politicians for making bad decisions. Now, the World Independent Network and Gallup International did a poll at the end of 2013, and they asked more than 66,000 participants across 65 countries the basic question, what country in the world is the biggest threat to peace? So let me give you the results. Russia, 2% of people say they're the biggest threat. Syria, 3%. And they're engaged in a civil war right now. Israel, Iran, North Korea, and Afghanistan tied at 5%. China, 6% say they're the biggest threat to world peace. Pakistan, 8% say they're the biggest threat to world peace. Who was number one by a wide margin with 24% of the people picking them? The United States of America. Now, look, you can disagree with them and say, well, you're wrong for reason A, B, C, and D, and that's fine. It's just a matter of opinion because it's a poll. But I'm trying to explain to you what the international perception is of the United States of America. Now, why does that perception exist? One word: history. So since World War II, here are just some of the countries that the United States of America has invaded. Guatemala, twice. Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Grenada, Korea, Lebanon, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Iran, twice. Libya, 3 times. Panama, Iraq, twice. Somalia, Yugoslavia, Bosnia, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Philippines, Honduras, Nicaragua, Chile. That's just a partial list. Now understand something. Were some of those legitimate, and were some of those fairly humanitarian in their purpose? I think so. In fact, I think he makes a good point when he brings up the Koreas, North Korea and South Korea. South Korea is really a bastion of civilized society to a large extent. I mean, they're not perfect, but no society is perfect. North Korea is a fucking hellhole on earth. So are there some legitimate interventions? Yes. Okay. But are all of the interventions legitimate? No way, man. You have to be insane to think that. In fact, oftentimes the United States has overthrown democracies and installed dictators that are kind to American interests. So, for example, Iran in 1953 with the Shah. That's just one example. Don't take my word for it. Go read the history of the situation. It's amazing. We flat out overthrew a democracy in Iran to put in a dictator to serve our interests. Okay, that's just one example. There are many more examples. Pinochet, the dictator in Chile, that's another one. I mean, the list goes on and on. The United States has supported many authoritarian regimes and overthrown many democracies. Again, I don't want you to take my word for it, man. It's not about me. Okay, I'm just being a medium for the information right now. You could do your research on this thing called Google. Okay, type in United States support of authoritarian regimes. So many fucking things will come up. I think there's a Wikipedia page that's dedicated to it, for fuck's sake. Okay, so it's mainstream knowledge. Now, I could go on and give you more and more examples. So here are some other dictators we supported. Noriega in Panama, Marcos in the Philippines, Mobutu in the Congo, Franco in Spain. I mean, today, we are buddy-buddy with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, they stone gay people to death. They don't allow women to drive or show an ankle. They need to be covered from head to toe. We're buddies with Myanmar. They're a military dictatorship. I mean, the list goes on and on. So the bottom line is this, man. For Bill O'Reilly to go out there and give the rainbows and sunshine and puppy dogs and hold hands and sing Kumbaya view of American foreign policy, it's just bullshit. That's nothing but propaganda. The idea that we're only fighting for the good of the world and we are the world policemen and we only care about democracy and freedom and this and that. That's not true. When you look at the evidence, when you look at the data, when you look at the history, yes, sometimes we did the right thing. And our interventions might have been, geared towards humanitarian purposes. But a lot of the time, it wasn't for humanitarian purposes. It was solely for greedy purposes, for getting our hands on natural resources, for trying to quell ideologies that we disagree with politically. Okay? So it's a silly idea. The United States isn't all great in every way, shape, and form. Again, you don't blame the troops. You blame the policy makers. Okay? But the United States isn't all great and we're not all terrible. We're clearly somewhere in the middle. It's a complicated situation. But the purpose should be to try to get our foreign policy to fall in line with what the American people want in a democracy. And guess what they want? They want us to be non-interventionist.